Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Frenemies, joined as always by David Swor. I am DJ Cox. David, we no longer have a sponsor, buddy.
The sad week, DJ. The
The
sad
white
week.
sauce is gone, buddy. Um,
2021 is indeed turning out to be worse than 2020. 2020 at least brought us the white sauce, which was the one thing we had to look forward to, and now it's gone. So I, I think it's biblical. The Lord's coming back now. Everything's been done. We've tasted heaven, and now it's gone. So, Coach, rest in peace to the white sauce. We'll miss you forever. We still got to get you on the show, Coach, just as a closeout for all of our fans. They're going to be missing it, so not good.
I got a feeling, David, if we ever go down and see him, we see him here and there. I got a feeling he's going to have that for us still. I'm pretty sure he's not going to retire it. I think he's just retiring it from selling it to the world like he was doing there, and he did really good. So I'm glad that they made a lot of money off of it. I'm sure that they did pretty well with it, no doubt. And he said they did well. So now we'll just have to go to Swor Insurance, buddy, and start, throwing your name out there with your insurance and everything, and maybe you can be our sponsor. There you go, right?
That sounds
Found
good.
a new one just like that. Well, David, man, we have got a lot to get into this week. There has been a ton that has happened with the free agents. A lot of crazy stuff has happened this week in baseball. We're going to get to as much of it as we possibly can. We're going to get into our second set of Hall of Fame debate. We've got a lot of free agent talk, a lot of fun we're going to have in the show tonight. But, David, I think the top story is going to go to you with your Yankees. I will follow up with the Cubs, who have made a lot of moves this week as well. None for the good, but a lot for the bad. And so I'm going to start with the good that the Yankees have done and kick you off with your Yankees update. So take it away, buddy.
So finally, the gridlock is broken, DJ. The stare down is over with DJ LeMahieu. It's kind of a team-friendly deal, to be honest with you. Supposedly, he turned down more money from the Blue Jays to come home and stay with the Yankees. 6 years, $90 million. So you hear that and you think 6 years for a guy who's, I think he's going to be 33 this year, 32 or 33. And that hurts. But by stretching it out like that, the luxury tax number is lower. So just $15 million against the luxury tax, which is what it's all about right now, DJ. Yep. And immediately after that, boom, Corey Kluber is a Yankee now too. And this is a typical Brian Cashman move all the way. Think about the aces that have come to the Yankees under the Cashman administration. Clemens, Randy Johnson, Kevin Brown. And obviously some of these guys worked out awesome. Roger Clemens. Some of them did not work out at all. Kevin Brown. And so this is interesting, DJ. I'm not sure I would have been willing to sign up for this. I really have been under the thought that the Yankees just needed innings as bad as they needed anything. And Kluber coming off an injury, I'm not sure he's going to give you innings. So it's going to be boom or bust. He's only signed for 1 year, $12 million. So that leaves the Yankees $7 million under the luxury tax right now, which they're trying to do. So I read up a little bit on the luxury tax. DJ, I didn't know if you realized it. On the third year you're over, which is what the Yankees would be on, the tax is 50 cents per every dollar over, and you lose your second and fifth round draft pick. That's why the Yankees are working so hard to stay under. So the rumors going around that they've saved a little money to sign Brett Gardner. I don't understand that. They really need another pitcher or two, but hey, the Yankees are going to be a force to be reckoned with right now. The Blue Jays or the Rays have stepped back. The Red Sox, I would say, are kind of just staying where they were. And up to this point, the Blue Jays haven't really done anything. So I would think the Yankees would be heavy favorites to win. They needed DJ LeMahieu. Like I said, this is a deal that kind of hurts for both parties. So it's a good deal. Good week for the Yankees.
So one of the rumors too, David, I was hearing is Tanaka possibly coming back to the Yankees. But I also heard Japan's knocking on the door for more money. So I guess we're going to see what happens with him. But, man, I could not agree with you more on the DJ LeMahieu signing. What a great deal for the Yankees. Like you said, you kind of wish you could take those 38, 39-year-olds seasons off if you could. I'm sure they would love to assign him to a 4-year deal, a little more year friendly for the Yankees. But sometimes when you lock a guy up like this, they want to end their career. They want that security for their final years to lock it up. And the Yankees, for 90 million, I got to be honest with you, I thought he was going to be the 100 million guy, and maybe that's JT this offseason might be the only one to do it. But I thought he was going to be that guy. It ended up not happening. But wow, man, I tell you what, we were talking about before the show. If DJ LeMahieu doesn't play second for you, you can slide him over to third. And as he gets older, David, you can slide him over to first. So the flexibility of his defense also makes this a good contract. And another reason why I thought it was very valuable for the Yankees to sign him. Plus, like you said, they're right there. If they would have lost him, that would have been a pretty bad step backwards for them. They're a loaded lineup once again, and great things going to come out of them, I think, in 2021.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. The Yankees, like I said, I still feel like they're a little bit away from being an elite team, but it seems like the entire American League, DJ, has kind of took a step back. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but Oakland, playoff team, they've lost a player or two. Like I said, Tampa Bay, they've lost a player or two, which I told you earlier in the week. I'm not sure if I trust that they're going to be completely out of it. I think they're still going to be good, but they've lost some guys. And so, like I said, everything's kind of trending in a good direction for the Yankees right now.
Corey Kluber had thrown for, I believe, 20 different teams in a bullpen session that he had, like a workout session. And it does not surprise me one bit that the Yankees did this. This is a typical Yankee move. And for 1 year, though, that it makes sense. I mean, I get it. We'll see if they can get somewhat of the old Corey Kluber back. If they don't, they only got 1 year wrapped up in him. So it's a good risk. You can get a high reward out of a guy like that. He can definitely come back. So,
and again, he was offered more money. The Yankees had a big advantage on Kluber. Their pitching coach was the Indians' assistant pitching coach, so he'd been working with Kluber, and also their trainer has worked with Kluber in the past. The Yankees had a big advantage. He wanted to play for a winner. Again, I don't remember what team that I heard offered him a little bit more money, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so good week for your Yankees, man. You got to be happy with what they did this week, no doubt. It seems like we were in a little bit of a funk with the Yankees for a while there, with not much happening, and all of a sudden, man, boom, here they go, and they're starting to look pretty legit again for this upcoming season. So good on them, and I think they're one more starting pitcher away from being, like you said, finished for the offseason. If they sign Gardner, I don't agree with that either. I do think they need one more starting pitcher. And their offense is just fine, man. So very good moves on their part. So the Cubs, David, unlike your Yankees, we continue to go south this week. It's been another tough week, man. And about a month ago, I told the Cubs fans to buckle up for a ride because it's going to get bumpy. And it got more and more bumpy this week for sure. And it was tough. It's another tough week for the Northsiders here. So the Cubs have landed Christian Hernandez, though, David. I don't know if you saw a lot of the foreign prospects kind of sign this week to the younger prospects down in the Dominican and all that. The clubs have loaded up on these guys, and they got the number 6 guy in the MLB pipeline for the top 30 international prospects for $3 million. He's 6'2", 175. He's a 17-year-old, so we'll see him in 2025. But apparently he's a 5-tool player. He resembles A-Rod and is similar to Manny Machado at this age, so they're real high on him. This is all just speculation. It's hard to judge a 17-year-old, obviously, but he could be the future third baseman if the Cubs were to lock up Baez for a long time, which is very possible. And I don't think Bryant would stay if they did that. So he hits for average and power. He's considered a 5-tool player, so he's got like 30 home run, 300 batting average potential is what they're saying. Like I said, he's raw. He's 17, so you can only take so much out of a 17-year-old with all these projections and everything. But I was a little excited to see this because it's nice to have one of the top international prospects now moving into the farm system. So that was some good news. Also, this week we signed Shelby Miller. He gets a minor league deal at 1 year, $875,000. Miller is 30 years old, didn't pitch in the majors in 2020. He was an all-star in 2015, but David, you know what his final numbers were in his only year that he was an All-Star in 2015. This blew my mind. He made the All-Star team one time in his career, and it was in 2015 with the Atlanta Braves. He finished that season 6-17 with a 3.02 ERA, and he was an All-Star that year. How does that happen, David? I didn't get a chance to see what his break numbers were, but that blows my mind. How are you 6-17 and made an All-Star team that year?
Those Braves must have been awful.
3.02 ERA. What'd you say?
So the Braves must have been awful that year.
Yeah.
They went through a spell. Remember, they were kind of rebuilding. That must have been around that time. Wow, 6-17 and a 3.03 ERA. So it wasn't like he was out there just, throwing it away either. He was pitching well. Wow, did not remember that.
That's unbelievable. And like you said, they must have been terrible. And maybe he was their only representative that year. Like everybody has to have one player on their team, but wow, he must have started out really well. That's what I got to say. And those losses must have racked up after the All-Star break pretty bad for him. His best years were with the Cardinals in 2013 and 2014, where he went 15-9 with a 3.06 ERA and 10-9 with a 3.74 ERA. However, since 2015, he is 12-38. So we'll see what he's got left. Not much promise left, but maybe this is a stash kind of guy if you need somebody who's got experience to come up again. I don't know. We'll see. But those are the two pickups that they got. The Contreras rumors kind of fired up a little bit more this week with the Marlins showing a ton of interest in him. And once again,
I'd be pumped as a Cubs fan if I was dealing with the Marlins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be nice to get some of those prospects.
That's exactly right, David. Is they got a big pipeline there of a lot of players that could help us. There's no doubt. And I've said before, of all the guys that we could possibly trade, he would be the one that would make the most sense to me and would hurt the least out of all this, I think, because we get a lot back for him and everything we got coming up. So we'll see. But those rumors were pretty hot there for a while. I've seen a lot of that, and we'll see how that ends up. I predict, David, that the Cubs are going to make a free agent signing this week. This is the week they're going to have to go get a pitcher, at least one, to fill this rotation. They got to do something this week to add to the major league club. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. They have to do something. On a small little minor deal, the Cubs lose Jose Martinez to the Mets. He's a career 307 hitter against lefties, so he's a specialist when lefties are on the mound. Didn't really play too much for the Cubs, but the Mets kind of snuck in there and stole him away a little bit. Tyler Chatwood went to the Blue Jays. This is a sneaky deal for the Blue Jays. I don't mind this very much. I don't think he's going there to be a starter from everything I'm reading. I think they're going to long relief him, and spot start him, which was his role with the Cubs. When he was in that role, he was awesome. As a starter, he was okay. Thing about Chatwood is he's got an awesome spin rate, so that ball moves a ton out of his hand. And if he's on, he's very good. But if he's not, he's very bad. So you never know what Chatwood you're going to get from day to day, which is kind of the problem with him. But when he's on, he can be very good. So we lost Chatwood to the Blue Jays. Good addition by them. I think he fits in really well with what they're trying to do there. And then the last one, David, I'll talk about. This one just came through. The Nationals are stealing all the former Cubs, man. Davey Martinez, who is their manager now, is bringing over the guys that he coached with Madden there for a long time. They've got Starlin Castro. They've got Wellington Castillo. They got Kyle Schwarber. And now they have John Lester. So this one was tough. The Cubs had rumored that they would possibly bring him back on a 1 or 2 year deal, which is kind of why this is a little bit more shocking than the rest of those, is because we thought we still maybe have a chance of bringing him back. To be honest with you, David, I think it was time. I think this was the right time with the amount of money he was going to make. They obviously would have taken that money and signed him at a way less amount than he was going to get the $25 million there. But still, I don't think signing him made much sense for this team, to be honest with you. He was, to be honest with you, David, John Lester, and I heard this on the radio coming home today, may have been the Cubs' greatest free agent signing of all time. And that's hard to debate. It really is, because a lot of the guys that we have that have been great were either brought up through the system or brought over through trade. We never had a free agent like this who just dominated like John did. he was huge in that 2016 World Series, gave everything he had, came in and gave Game 7 with Ross, and that ended up being one of the greatest things that happened in that game. Him shutting the door a little bit there and Ross hitting the home run, who was his personal catcher. So, man, John Lester, a lot of great memories for the Cubs. 2015, 16, 17, 18 playoffs. He was all a big part of all that. Even the 19 team that didn't make it, he was a big part of that. And then this year he kind of fell off a little bit and wasn't as good. But thanks a lot, John, for all the memories. Seriously, it was awesome. And I think, kind of segue into what we're going to be doing tonight. When his career's over, David, we're going to take a pretty long look at his credentials for the Hall of Fame. It's going to be there, I think. We'll see. I'm not completely there yet on what to do with him, but he's got a shot. There's no doubt about it. And he's coming up on his 200th win. And that's another thing, too, that's real sad about this, David, is he missed getting 200 with the Cubs, which he would have probably got if it was a full season. And he never got the send-off, like he had mentioned in the post-game press conference that this is possibly his last start with the Cubs. And there were no fans in the stands. Can you imagine that? I mean, all that he did for us as fans, and we weren't there for his last start to cheer him off, and give him the ovation he deserves. But hopefully this season, fans are back to capacity. The Nationals come to town. Lester's on the mound as a fourth starter for the Nationals, and we can send him off with something he'll never forget. So thanks again, John. And that's about it for the Cubs this week. A lot of bad and not very much good. So,
hey, I like that signing for the Nationals. $5 million for Lester. And, I read a stat today that was pretty cool. I don't remember the exact numbers, but Lester had the exact same winning percentage and the exact same ERA that he had from the Red Sox to the Cubs. He's just basically been this level pitcher his entire career. So I thought that was a really cool stat.
That really is, man. And it's the Nationals got better. They really did. I like I said, I don't know if I believe too much in him anymore, but if he can be, I heard Joe Ross is probably their fifth starter. So, if they got Lester at 4 and Ross at 5, it's okay. It's not great by any means, but you got the 3 big dogs up there. And if Lester can, go maybe 500 for him or something like that, I think that'd be a pretty good season, what they want to get out of him in his 1 year. So yet to be seen, and we'll see where he goes from there, but wish him nothing but the best and good luck to him. He got offer from the Cubs that was like $3 million less than what the Nationals were wanting to give him. So, he didn't want that, obviously, and he ended up taking the deal with the Nats, and off he went. So, David, we got to transition a little bit here. The Padres have once again made another move. I'm very curious to see what you think about this move, adding Musgrove, who was, David, he was an opening day starter this year for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I know that's not as glorious as maybe being the Yankees opening day starter or the Dodgers opening day starter, but nonetheless, he's an opening day starter for a team, and that's something special. And once again, here we go. So talk a little bit about this trade, David.
Yeah, so hey, Musgrove kind of came on right at the end of last year. I think his last 3 starts were all scoreless, all 10K plus, if I remember right.
Wow.
Yeah, and so again, this is a win now move. I heard AJ Preller talking on MLB today. They think that they found something in him at the end of last year, kind of unlocked some potential. And man, you could do a lot worse for your number 4 or 5 starter, which is what he's going to be. So, man, I love this move. I love that they're going for it. And I don't hate this move for the Mets either. They got I'm gonna butcher his name, but I think it's actually Lucchesi is how you say it, if I'm not mistaken.
You got it.
And
man,
Lucchesi. I felt like he's kind of like got some unlocked potential in there. They're saying they're going to use him either back into the rotation or long relief. The guy that they gave up for him was like an A-ball catcher. And you can't blame the Pirates either. They got 5 prospects out of this. So, hey, I think everybody won. It's in the words of Michael Scott, it's a classic win-win-win, DJ.
That's awesome, man. So the Pirates, man, when we end up doing their podcast, woo,
Gonna be rough. But they got 2 guys, DJ, that both pitched last year for the Padres on their major league team. Yeah. And then the rest of the guys were just kind of prospects. And so They're going to be a little bit interesting. They got Will Crow. They got another starting pitcher in the trade after that. I don't remember who that was for exactly. And then they've gotten 2 pitchers for Musgrove. And so, like I said, I can't blame them. They've shed some salary. They've got some guys that are interesting. So I think Ben Cherington's their GM. He's blowing it up.
Yeah, he really is. And the Padres, man, I think that might be their last move for the pitchers anyway. I mean, they've done it, man. And what I kind of gathered on this, I'm not sure what you thought about this too. What do you think Mackenzie Gore's chances are coming up this year? Do you think that with the Musgrove signing, like, I know Paddock is in the mix too, right? Like, he's kind of the forgotten guy in this whole thing. Is they've got him too, and he had a couple bad years there, but I don't think they've by any means given up on him either. So you got about 6 or 7 options there in the rotation, and they're all good. So what do you think about Gore's chances this year?
I think they're going to do the 6-man rotation. That's exactly what I think they're going to do. I think a lot of teams are going to do that. Now, Gore, he might not get, it may be when they get an extra day, they slot him in. So he may not get regular work, but I think this sets up perfectly. I think Gore's definitely going to be up this year. I think they'll employ the 6-man rotation. They're going to kind of need to do that. Some of their guys have injury history, like Snell, and I think that's what this is about. And again, I think it's a genius move. You can never, ever, ever, ever have too much pitching. I mean, it's like last year. They traded for Clevenger. They gave him a start or 2, whatever it was, and then he's out for a year and a half.
Very true.
So,
very true.
I really like this move.
So one of my favorite shows on the Chicago Sports Radio is Inside the Clubhouse with Bruce Levine. And this Saturday, it's a Saturday show. It goes on from like 9 to 11, 9 to 12 sometimes. And Bruce had Preller on this week. It was kind of interesting to hear Padres, GM perspective on this whole thing that's going on. And one of the reasons they had him on there was because they got Yu Darvish, but they wanted to talk to him as well about all he was doing. And he just talked about, never having enough pitching, and it made total sense to me. And like you just said that made total sense. Is you can never have enough arms, and if you are in a point where you're going 5-man and those guys are rolling and you got good long relievers, so you just can't have enough arms, especially with all the injuries that happen to pitchers. It's a great point by you for sure. And man, they made another good move, and those Padres are definitely a lot of fun to keep up with. And man, unbelievable, David. That was a great pickup. Sneaky.
Can you say now that the Padres are better than the Dodgers, DJ?
I'm not sure I'm quite there yet, but it's very close. I think it's very close. There is no doubt that is going to be one of the top races for first place this year in baseball, I believe. You got probably 2 of the 3 best teams in the league, in both leagues. I should say majors, are in that division, going to be fighting for a division title. So it's amazing. I can't really believe that the Padres have done as well as they have. It's been really cool. And I think Tatis is their next move. They're talking, big long-term extension with him. So we'll see if that goes down before spring training too. But lock him up. I would just lock him up. He's not asking for, $300-400 million like some of these mega stars are. He wants 195 or something, which I know that sounds crazy, but if you get 11 years out of that, whew. So we'll see. We'll see what the Padres' next move is, but that could be it right there.
Yep.
So David, something pretty crazy just happened with the Mets this past day or two. Just hired Jared Porter to be their general manager. He makes an excellent move in bringing Francisco Liriano over to the Mets, and just yesterday gets canned. So I don't know if we can keep this PG-13 or not, but
how did no one know about this, DJ? Let's just cut to the chase. The Mets vetted him. That the Diamondbacks vetted him. And I hear the timeline was it actually happened when he was in Chicago.
Yep.
He's been interviewed for multiple jobs. How did this slip through the cracks? How is this just now coming up? And the poor Mets, 2 times in 3 years, they hire somebody and they don't make it like a week. Or 2 times in 2 years, I guess. It's
Beltran?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a head scratcher, man. I just don't understand how this is just now coming out. Somebody had to have known. I just don't get it.
I'm having a hard time with that too. It happened in 2016. So how does that just slip through the cracks for 4 years? I mean, did she just all of a sudden say, "Oh, he's more important now, so I'm gonna drop a bomb on him and ruin his life"? I mean, I don't know
And he
what
is really
happened there, but
he's done. I
oh,
mean,
he's toast.
he's done probably in baseball forever. 'Cause that's just the way it is now. The old cancel culture and all that, which I'm not condoning anything that he did at all, but there's no like second chances or forgiveness or anything like that in our culture today. And so, I mean, he's done. And it just amazes me that all these teams, I mean, he's been with the Diamondbacks for years. How did they not know? It just blows my mind.
I'm telling you, man, this is this is one of those things. Is like as men, unfortunately, you got to watch yourself, man, just in life in general with these kind of things. And what he did obviously was no doubt wrong. I'm not condoning that by any means, but 4 years ago is the problem I had with that. And I mean, obviously, if it was something major, he should have been fired immediately. I mean, I'm not saying I don't know. I'm running down a rabbit hole here with this whole thing. I'm not saying he was, but it's tough, man. I mean, just out of the blue, he becomes a general manager, and all of a sudden, here this comes. Like that's just weird to me. Like, where were you when right when it happened? Why didn't it happen
Right.
then? That's the problem I have with all this. And
Why didn't you
they
call the
have their reasons
Diamondbacks?
for things, but it's weird, man. It really is.
Why didn't you call the Cubs? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it is. It's just strange. It's like, oh, he's in a position of power now. So I'm going to drop the bomb and, like you said, ruin his life. And like I said, I'm not blaming her. It's just strange. The whole thing is just so strange. I just don't get it.
It really is. And it just, I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard by this because a lot of people had his back. He seems like a real nice guy, and he probably is, man. But we all make mistakes, and I think he made a pretty bad one there for sure that ended up costing him. And it happens a lot of times, man, with these people. You got to watch yourself. You got to be smart with what you're doing. And man, I just can't believe it. Like you said, Beltran, and now this. It's like the Mets are just, and this cannot help them, David. I mean, I know that they've improved their team, but now you're trying to find a general manager here, and like I said before, they're still a move or two away from being real legit. And I guess, somebody else is going to have to make those moves now. Maybe they have an assistant GM right there who's going to kind of fill the void, which they probably do, I'm sure. And he'll probably interim until they find somebody. But just crazy, man. I kind of threw me for a loop when I saw that. It just came out of nowhere. I think today it happened. And just got to watch your back, man, no doubt. And
No doubt.
Straight. So that's a tough one, man. So, David, your White Sox made a pretty hefty move this week. What do you got for me on Liam Hendricks?
Well, he was the best closer available. I don't blame the White Sox for going for it. But, DJ, answer me this question. You're in the Chicago media market. Is Liam Hendricks better than Colomé?
Yeah, so I had that debate with myself, too, a little bit. I'm like, where are they going with this? When you dig really deep into the stats, I think that they were in love with the fact that he strikes out a lot more than Colomé does, and Colomé relies on the defense a lot, which is one of the big things that make all of Hendricks' stats in certain ways look a lot better than Colomé's stats, is keeping, runners completely off the base by not forcing the offense to hit to the defense, which could cause errors, obviously, and different ways of reaching base. But the strikeout is king, man. If you can get a guy that can K more people than they putting the ball in play, I'll take that anytime. As a guy who's going to strike out more people than someone who's going to put the ball in play, I really will. And I think that was a lot to do with it. I really do. But Colomé's numbers were actually better if you look at them than Hendricks were last year. That's what makes you scratch your head a little bit on this, no doubt. An 0.83 RA, I think Colomé had, if I'm not mistaken.
There's the media market, DJ, that you got to deal with. There's the ballpark that we got to deal with. I just don't think if they probably could have got Colomé cheaper because it doesn't seem like everybody else values him as much as Hendricks either. And Colomé is a known quantity. He has years. His career stats are better than Liam Hendricks. Liam Hendricks has had 2 good years. Colomé actually has a really good track record of being good. If it's me, I'm taking column A on less years personally, but I can't really argue with their move in doing this. According to Fangraphs, they now have the second best bullpen in the league, and so they're, and to be honest with you, I can't agree with Fangraphs because you know who number one is in the bullpen situation? The Yankees.
Really?
I'm sorry, I just can't buy that. But yeah, that's that. As of right now, that's who's projected to have the best bullpen, with the White Sox being second. So. Good job. Way to go for it. The weirdest contract I've ever seen, DJ. 4 years and 54 million with an option. If he declines the option, he still gets paid the money just over time.
So, wow. Would he have Bobby Bonilla's agent?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I like it. What do you think about it?
Well, I do like it. But I don't know, man. I was seriously talking to my high school baseball coach, Jim Schmidt, before we came on here, and he's a big White Sox fan. And I was trying to pick his brain on why are they number 2? Like, I don't know if I get that. I really don't. Like, you have Hendricks, you have Aaron Bummer, you have Evan Marshall, who had good years, no doubt, but they're not proven over a long time. That's my problem with them. You got Garrett Crochet, who's the lefty who throws 100, 101 miles an hour. That's a good one. I give him that. Cody Hewer, Jace Fry, Matt Foster, and Ronaldo Lopez. I mean, I'm not really buying that as the second best bullpen in the game. Am I missing something? Like, I'm just not really sure if I buy number 2. I mean, I'm not saying they're terrible, but I read the names to you. That doesn't really get me excited to go to the bullpen. I don't know.
I think it's just going off of advanced metrics. Like you said, strikeouts is king. Look at the Yankees bullpen. What's it known for? Aroldis Chapman, strikeouts.
Yeah.
Do I want Aroldis Chapman with the ball in his hand at the end of a game, World Series game? Yeah, last 2 years he's proven that's not a great idea. So, again, I think Liam Hendricks is a really good pitcher. I would have stuck with the known quantity, went with column A, but I can't argue with him going with Hendricks either.
So, David, I wanted to kind of get this out of you. I had watched this week on MLB Network. They had done the top 30 batting stances of all time. This was a fun list, and I got to watch that hour show. It was a lot of fun to see some of the old-timer guys that had crazy batting stances. So I want to go back and forth with you on this one. I've put my rankings number 1 through 5 here on our 5 top batting stances. I'll have you do your 5th. I'll do my 5th. We'll just kind of go back and forth till we get to number 1 all time. For favorite batting stances of all time, what's your number 5?
All right, so not all of mine are crazy. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. I like these guys for different reasons, but I really enjoyed this. Number 5 for me, Cecil Fielder.
Oh, yes.
The bat wag and the kind of weird swing. I love me some Cecil Fielder. That was the Yankees traded for him, I believe, in 1996. Helped them win a World Series. Big bopper. I'm going with Cecil Fielder.
I forgot he was a Yankee at the end of his career. The Yankees seem to do that with everybody. Bring him along at the end of their career. That's what the White Sox do a lot too. Bring him along, end of his career. Why not? I've got another one too. I got Jose Canseco.
Yeah.
Man, in the backyard, you would definitely imitate Jose Canseco's batting stance. Just a freak of a muscle man and just complete shredding of the bat through the zone. A lot like Cecil there, nothing too crazy with the mechanics, but just the batting stance and the swing, very intimidating. There's no way I would want to face a guy like that. Borderline Hall of Famer, if not for the roids, but man, what a stance. Jose Canseco. So, David, who's your number 4?
Going back to my Yankees and bringing guys back at the end of their career. I love to watch Darryl Strawberry hit.
Yeah.
He kind of had a majestic swing. When he hit those home runs, they were usually bombs, big towering bombs at Yankee Stadium. Just a sweet lefty swing. So I'm going with Darryl Strawberry.
Man, when looking back on his career, you've seen Darryl Strawberry. He probably was 160 pounds, man. Just a beanpole. And back then, he just seemed to be so huge, but he was really skinny, man. And
I always appreciate Darryl Strawberry for the knuckle sandwich he gave Armando Benitez for hitting Tino Martinez in the back. DJ, I watched that video over the summer just fooling around, and I still got mad. I was still mad about it. I was ready to fight Armando Benitez even now. Hitting my guy in the back for the 3rd time.
Bring it on, Benitez. David wants you in a cage match, UFC style. I'll promote it. Number 4, Andre Dawson. I loved Andre Dawson's stance. The front foot crazily towards home plate, the back foot crazily not towards home plate,
Yeah.
and just mashed the ball. Just completely loved his stance. That was one I would definitely imitate in the backyard. The Hawk, one of the greatest Cubs of all time, Andre Dawson. Who's your number 3, David?
So I like the ever-changing batting stance of Cal Ripken. It could
Oh.
change mid at bat. It could change game to game. Just all kinds of weird. One time he'd be crouching. Next time, So I like me some Cal Ripken.
Oh, that's a good one, man. The Iron Man. That streak will never ever be broken. There's no way. I can't believe he never got hurt in all those years. Unbelievable. The face of the Orioles. That's a good one, man. Like you said, you couldn't imitate that because every time it was different.
Yeah. How about going out and hitting a home run in his last AB in the All-Star game? That was pretty cool.
Chan-Ho Park, I believe he did that. I'm pretty sure it was him, but yeah, that's a great way to go out. It was awesome for sure.
Yeah.
Number 3, Ken Griffey Jr. Just the stance, the swing, one of the prettiest swings I've ever seen in my entire life, to be honest with you. There's no doubt about it. Just intimidating up there. He's got the wiggle going on up here, and when he swings, pure through the zone.
Beautiful
swing. And a lot of fun to imitate Ken Griffey Jr. So who's your number 2?
You're gonna be surprised with this one. Your only roid guy in the Hall of Fame, Jeff Bagwell. Jeff Bagwell and the big long nose stride. I don't know what you call that. He would spread all the way out, his roided muscles all in here, and then he would just unwind and hit those bombs. So Jeff Bagwell.
That was a crazy stat. I don't know how he came up with that. It looked like he was sitting on the toilet. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yep. That's what roids will do, man. You can see the ball better.
My number 2, Mickey Tettleton.
Oh, yeah.
Man, oh, man. Oh, yeah. Yep. From both sides of the plate. What a weird batting stance. But I'll tell you what, man. I must have done that 4,000 times in the backyard with wiffle ball. Just stick the bat to the side, hit Mickey Tettleton style. I don't know how some of these guys actually hit a baseball with these weird, funky stances they got, but that was a lot of fun. Old Detroit Tiger there, catcher. Probably known more for his batting stance than anything, really, to be honest with you, his entire career. Guys that are our age definitely looked at that stance and were like, what in the world? And what a really cool one that was. So I'm very curious. Who's your number 1, David?
Hey, if you didn't try to be Gary Sheffield in the backyard playing wiffle ball, then you weren't human. So definitely Gary Sheffield and the bat wiggle.
That's my number 1 too, man. We agreed on this, David. This is awesome.
Hey, but we can't put him in the Hall of Fame because somebody wrote him might have used steroids. Even though he hit more home runs than Bagwell and he's more popular and everybody copies his stance, we're only pure here. We can't put him in the Hall of Fame.
No, we cannot, but we can definitely imitate his stance, and that is also my number 1, Gary Sheffield. Back in the day when we play video games like MVP 2003, 2004 were some of the greatest games I think ever made, and you could create yourself in those games. I would have that stance. Like I couldn't do that if you paid me to hit a ball like that, but that was what I looked like when I created myself. I would do that, have the big leg kick, and just hit bombs. But man, that's by far my favorite stance. The hand-eye coordination speed he had on swinging that bat still baffles me to this day.
Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, that's awesome, man. I promise you we didn't talk about that. We both got number 1 the same. That's really cool.
I was going to put Griffey in there, to be honest with you, but I knew you were going to choose him. He would have been in my top 5, just to be honest with you, for sure.
Yeah, that stance, man, that swing, just absolutely pure, awesome, fun to imitate. Hat backwards, with Griffey for sure.
How about Craig Counsell hitting like if you thought your mom would come up with a batting stance if she had never played before? How did he do that?
That might be the craziest batting stance I've ever seen. I don't even like it. Like I honestly look at it and I'm like, I shake my head every time, like, how in the world? And Craig Counsell, man, he's been a World Series hero a couple times. So, I mean, the Marlins and just crazy what he came up with to even hit the balls. It just
You would
blows
think if you
my mind.
threw him inside consistently, he couldn't get to it. It's up
Yeah,
here. You would think if you just peppered him right there, there's no way. But Major League pitchers try, but it just seems too easy. But
crazy, man. That one, whew, there's a lot of funky ones that we could get into all night. That's I'm sure is a lot of fun to go over some of those. But that was a lot of fun, man. So real quickly here, David, I wanted to get into this too. And the 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie card sold this week for $5.2 million. This is a grade 9 out of 10 Mickey Mantle card. There's said to be only 6 of these in grade 9 in the world, which is crazy to me. I started collecting baseball cards, David, and I kind of want to hear your quick story on baseball cards too. In 1986 with the 86 tops, I regret every day collecting baseball cards. I wish I was collecting basketball cards and getting Michael Jordan rookies at that exact same time. I would have had about 100 of those. I would have been pretty rich off of those. So I wish I would have been doing that instead. But, no doubt this is really cool. For a little while there, I guess Mike Trout had a $3.94 million sell as a 1-in-1 card. So there's only one of them made. And before those two, it was Honus Wagner's rookie card that was king forever in the baseball card world. So, David, how many baseball cards you still got laying around? Any?
at one point, DJ, and it was well over 10,000. I was a huge baseball card collector back in the day, and I got a really awesome story. So I collect them the old-fashioned way. I never went and bought a set of anything. I went to our local grocery store, Smith's, which is still open down here. My mom bought me the waxy little tops with the crusty piece of gum in it. You popped it out. You had a checklist. You put them in order in your slips. Did you do this too?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Man, when the Mickey Mantle rookie card sold for the first time, this is pre-eBay and all that, and it sold for the first time, and maybe back then it might have went for $1 million. My grandma tells me, hey, I got all your dad's old baseball cards up in the attic. I was like, how do I get in the attic? So we go up in the attic, and in a cardboard box up there, sure enough, there's my dad's old cards. And listen, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, Roberto Clemente, all these cards. Now here's the problem with them though. Back in the day, they played with those cards. So they wrapped them around their bike to make it sound like an engine. So none of them were in great shape. But I actually, at one point, this is again pre-eBay. This is when you had to go get the Beckett magazine and look at what stuff was worth. I had two doubles of Roberto Clemente that at the time were $3,000 a piece. You know what they're worth now, DJ? Less than $200.
Really?
Because eBay, now they're out there. You can type it in eBay and there'll be 12 of them for sale. Used to be you couldn't find those things. But I still got all those cards. I'll never get rid of them. They're just more sentimental to me. They were my dad's cards or whatever. And I wish baseball cards was like it used to be, DJ. So I decided I was going to get my kids into them at one point, and I just can't figure it out. You can't just go buy a thing of tops or whatever and do it the old-fashioned way. I think cards now come in like packages of 5 or something. And anyway, I just don't get it. Are your kids into collecting cards?
So I had gone to like the 2014, 2015 top sets with them and started, like you're talking, putting them in the sleeves and just going that way with it. And they're still kind of doing it. For a little while there, we lost track of doing that. But I still want them to have those sets from when they were 6 years old, like I was. My first set was 6 years old, and to just try to collect them all the old-fashioned way. But the problem, like you said, is it's so hard now to, like, you have so many different brands and so many different this and that. Back when we were kids, it was just Tops and Donruss and Fleer, and Upper Deck came along, and it was like, wow, that was the fourth one, so to speak, and it just wasn't as washed down as it is now. I think it's a way too washed down. I think it's too much, obviously I'd love to have some of those cards, and if they're worth a lot of money and everything, don't get me wrong, but it's expensive, it's an expensive hobby to get into.
Yep.
But yeah, they did get into it for a little bit there. They're not into it as much right now, but I'm sure Clayton, I'll try to do that with him too and see what we can do with all that. But I've got like 4 giant tubs full of baseball cards still. Like you said, I'm just the sentimental of it all. There's no possible way that I'll get them. I'll leave them to my boys, when I get older and everything, so that they can carry it on. But a lot of fun growing up collecting baseball cards, and it's crazy to think you can become a 5.2 millionaire off of a baseball card. Man, did we miss out?
Totally did. And like my dad said, I mean, I had some football cards too that he had. Jim Brown. Man, all those cards would have been worth mega bucks had he taken care of them, but they're all bent up. And mine are the same way. I don't know about you, but I got them out all the time. I was making teams out of them and stuff. And
Oh yeah,
been up too. So.
Oh yeah, man. We grew up the same way. I'm pretty sure, man, with all that kind of stuff. Just a lot of fun trading with your friends.
Oh yeah.
Like who didn't want to trade cards? Like you had players that you loved, and you'd give up like 3 of the doubles that you had for that guy, and just a lot of fun, man, no doubt.
Yep.
So transitioning here, David, to the Phillies, the Archie Bradley signing. Sam Fold has taken initiative on that bullpen, like we were talking about. He's got a couple new guys in that pen now, but this is my guy I'm calling out this week, David. This is my call out for the week. Sam Fold, get JT signed this week, man. They have to do this move, David. Bryce Harper wants it. He's your face of your franchise. Like all the other teams in this division are getting better. If the Phillies lose JT, they're not going to be better. They're going to take a huge step back. So they've got to sign him. At first, I thought there was no way. Now I think they're offering him, David, over $100 million, if I'm not mistaken. I heard that they're going to give him big bucks to stick around. So I don't know why he hasn't signed yet, but that's got to happen this week for sure, man. That's got to be the next one to fall. I think is JT, and Springer's pretty close too. So, but go for it.
I got to pump the brakes here for a minute on the Phillies. I do agree that JT Realmuto has got to come back, but are they going to get better by signing? Let's be honest. They've lost their shortstop. They have improved the bullpen some. They're losing a starting pitcher or two. Don't the Phillies need pitching worse than they need Realmuto?
Yeah, you could argue that. I don't totally disagree with that, no doubt. I think that, like you said, if they could go get a stud pitcher right now, that wouldn't be the end of the world if they lost JT Realmuto. There's no doubt about that. But that's a big bat, man. That's the best catcher in the game, in my opinion, right now, and it'd be hard to let him go for sure. Like you said, they're subtracting some guys, and I don't know, man. This is where you take a tough spot. So
I don't know what the Phillies are doing right now. I looked at their team today, and obviously they're somewhere sort of in a rebuild mode. They're definitely not as good as the Braves. They're probably not as good as the Nationals in their division. So, I'm trying to think of who else in their division. The Marlins are kind of
the Mets and the Marlins, yeah.
So I'm not sure I'm signing Realmuto, DJ, just to be honest with you. I think they're too far away. I'm probably saving those chips, moving on to something else. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that they have a whole lot of tradable things either, but you can't go – you're not a playoff team if Gene Segura is your shortstop. I'm sorry. You're not. And that's what they are right now, which we'll talk about that later. There's some guys that they could sign. But, they got a good pitcher in Nola. And Wheeler. Wheeler's a good pitcher. So they got some good pitchers. Their bullpen, they still don't really have a closer. I love the Archie Bradley signing. I think it's genius. I think he was probably the best non-closer reliever out there. I'd rather have him than almost anybody. And to get him for 1 year and $6 million, I love that. I just think the Phillies are a long way away considering the division that they're in. And to give Realmuto $20 million a year for 5 years, I think he's over 30. I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing that or not.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I would do it. Maybe we'll disagree for the first time tonight on this. We're going to get into a lot of disagreements, I think, tonight. But to me, I'm signing him. I got to keep that bat. Best catcher in the game. I just can't let him walk. And I do kind of understand your point a little bit. But the Phillies are kind of making one huge move every year, it kind of seems. And to stay
I wouldn't hate
it
if they did it. I just think that's a harder decision to make than what you'd think. And Realmuto's market's kind of slim too. I mean, really, it's the Blue Jays and the Phillies at this point, unless some mystery team pops up. Everybody else has kind of filled their need. The Angels got Suzuki this week. The Mets got McCann. And so everything's kind of falling into places. I think Real Muto's kind of running out of options a little bit too. I agree with you. I think he's the best catcher in the game. It just depends on how much the Phillies are really going to compete.
So the Astros, transitioning a little bit here, have signed one of the major international prospects in Pedro Leon. And one of the things that there was a lot of them that happened this week, but I thought this one was a little more relevant than the rest of them because this guy here is said to be on the track to possibly come up this year, if not next year for sure. He gets a $4 million signing bonus. He's an everyday center field projected. This is Springer's replacement, David, no doubt. This is who they have. They have Tucker in a corner, and they've got him now. And then their third outfielder, I have no idea what they're going to do yet. There's definitely a lot of ways they can go with that still. If they don't have the DH, it's Yonder Alonso, of course. But we'll see, what the deal is as far as, the Astros go here. But right now it's Chas McCormick, Miles Straw, and Kyle Tucker in their outfield, Dave. And that's a problem for the Astros right now. So this is a big signing for them. He has a 96 to 100 mile an hour arm from center. That's crazy. So he's got a great arm. They got a high ceiling on him. He's a center fielder of the future. So I thought that was a great move. And they also, David, signed Pedro Baez to a deal as well, which, man, right now he's one of their top relievers. Did a great job for the Dodgers.
Very good.
Oh yeah, 303 career ERA as a eighth inning guy from 2014 to 2020 with the Dodgers. So what do you think of the Astros moves here?
Yeah, I love Baez. I think that's a great move. I'll agree with you. Astros got to get some outfielders, and if I were them, I would look pretty hard at Puig. I know that we've talked about him in the last year. It's crazy that someone hasn't signed him, but Puig would fit for them. They could probably get him on a 1-year deal. I think it's sad, just to be honest with you, they're not signing Springer. That team seems like they're kind of breaking up. They're in that mode of what are we going to do? They still got some great players with Bregman and Correa and Altuve, as long as you know what's coming. And so I don't know, man. I'd like to see the Astros keep trying to compete, man. There's some guys out there I think that could be had. We'll talk about Kevin Pillar here in a minute. I think he's a real underrated player. He could fill that center field hole for pretty cheap. So I think there's some guys out there to be had. I love the international signing. Those it seems like more often than not, at least with my team, the Yankees, those are the guys that pan out for whatever reason. The draft guys the Yankees don't draft well. I don't get it. But anyway, I like those moves. Like I said, I really like Baez in that bullpen.
Yeah, they did really well this week, no doubt, for sure. So Kurt Suzuki to the Angels. You kind of mentioned this already, a veteran backup to Max Stassi, or he could become a starter. Not sure yet what they're going to do there. He's 37, so maybe this is kind of his last year. He's getting a 1-year deal. Sneaky moves, old David. These Angels are making sneaky moves to get better, and we'll see if this is the year they crack it. You like this one?
Yeah, I really like it. I think he will be the starter. Keep in mind, he's a good hitter. He's not a slouch on defense either. He was Scherzer's personal catcher. I like this move. Stassi had a good year last year, but has really never done anything prior to that. And so I think they're going to go in the year with Suzuki as a starter, and I think it's a sneaky move. I really do. Suzuki's really underrated, and he's a career 270-ish hitter. 2 years ago, had 17 home runs, if I remember right. I was looking at him today. Had the Yankees not brought back Sanchez, to be honest with you, he's kind of on my wish list a little bit. I think he's an underrated catcher.
So our last move of the night we'll talk about here is Alex Wood to the Giants. He gets a deal here. Hasn't done much since 2018 with the Dodgers when he was 9-7 with a 3.68 ERA. And in 2017, he was 16-3 and led the majors with an 8.42 win percentage. So he knows how to pitch. He's been down the last couple of years, but he's currently penciled in as a Giants' 5th starter here. So
DJ,
what's your move?
How weird is that? Cueto, DeSclafani, Alex Wood, and Gossman, all Reds starters. How weird is that?
Oh, wow.
Do you realize that 4 starters from the Reds? I mean, recent starters from the Reds. I like Alex Wood pretty well. I wonder, honestly, if he's done. He's had 2 consecutive bad years. I don't know what's going on with him. I haven't followed him enough. When the Reds first got him, I thought it was a genius move. He was there with the Dodgers and pitched pretty well. Was overshadowed, but pitched pretty well. It's low risk. I think they got him for $3 million. I think the Giants are still in the mode that they're probably a little bit surprised they're competing like we were last year. And so, yeah, I mean, that rotation's not great, but it's not terrible either. And Alex Wood may prove out to be a great signing. If nothing else, trade bait.
Good point. You can definitely see if you can get something for him at the deadline if you're falling out, for sure. Good point. All right, David. So our 9 guys we're going to talk about this week. First off, actually, let's kind of go. I think I put on the list to talk about Springer just for a second here. So what's your gut on Springer? It's going to be the Mets or the Blue Jays, right? I mean, is it not down to those two?
I had pretty much eliminated the Blue Jays, and it was going to be Mets. But then all that happened today. And I just I don't know how that's going to play, man. I was hearing on MLB that Alderson's just going to take the GM job back. And so he was there for all this. And so maybe this all pans out. Springer's a Connecticut guy. I think he likes being there. The Blue Jays don't have a home. They might be in Buffalo again next year. I think that's hurting the Blue Jays big time. Because why else would nobody want to sign there? Think about it. They've been in on everyone. And up until today, they haven't signed anybody. I still believe Springer to the Mets has to happen. It makes sense for both parties. I still think he's going to the Mets.
And I'm still thinking he's going to the Blue Jays. So we're kind of off on this one, which, man, I think both those teams that's a huge signing for both of those teams. So really, I mean, whoever ends up getting him is getting a great player. That guy can hit, David. There's no doubt about it. And I still believe he's 30 years old. So he's by no means heading towards retirement. He's got a lot of good years left in him. He's right in the middle of his prime, really, at 30. So this is going to be a very interesting one to see. Him, just like JT, we could see JT and George sign this week. That could be what we're talking about next week for sure. 2 more big dogs going down. So we'll see what happens there. So our next guy, Daniel Murphy. David, what do you got on Daniel Murphy?
So I looked today at teams starting first baseman. That's really where Murphy's going to have to play. And let me find my list here. So I came up with the Brewers, Pittsburgh, and Boston. Those are all teams that need first baseman really bad. Honestly, he makes a ton of sense for Boston to me. The guy that they got playing there is a journeyman. I can't think of his name. He's like 29 years old. Man, when Murphy's right, he's a good hitter. He's a good contact hitter. So I'm going to guess. My gut tells me Brewers or Boston.
Yeah, he's 35 now. All I remember from him is him killing the Cubs in the 2015 NLCS, just murdering us. He was the MVP of that series with 4 bombs and 6 ribbies. It just seemed like we needed to beat him instead of pitch to him. It's crazy, man, how good he was in that series. But I think he's going to return to the Mets, honestly, as a backup. I don't see him starting maybe a pinch hitter type role, come in when they need him kind of as a backup.
But
we'll see.
Just sign the equivalent to Daniel Murphy and Jose Martinez? I guess he hits from the other side of the plate. The other side of the plate, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is him Martinez hits the lefties really well, and Murphy probably hit the righties really well. So if they could have those 2 guys coming off the bench, I think that would be. But that's a good point, though, no doubt. But I think you strengthen your bench by having those 2 guys coming off of it and seeing what they can do, because they're both still really good hitters, no doubt.
Yep.
What are you hearing about Colton Wong? This is kind of the big second baseman left now that DJ signed. So what are you hearing about him?
Again, the Red Sox make a ton of sense. Assuming they want to spend money. Michael Chavis is penciled in there. He's not much of a fielder. Honestly, DJ, and you can talk about this, he makes a lot of sense for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Makes some sense for the Marlins. And so those are the 3 teams that I think make the most sense. Wong's a nice player, man. You could do a lot worse than Colton Wong. He's a really good fielder and adequate bat. And so I think he makes a lot of sense. Red Sox, Cubs, and Marlins.
So I too have the Cubs. I think I was calling for him to be signed right when he became a free agent. That'd be nice for the Cubs to pick him up. I think he would fit in really well at second base. If that happened, David, the entire infield of the Cubs would have Gold Gloves. That'd be really cool to see. Really solid defensively if we got Colt Wong at second. But another team that could sneak in here and steal him, and I kind of got my gut feeling that he's going to go here, is the Oakland A's. And here's why, David. They currently have Tony Kemp and Chad Pinder as their double play combination, and that's not good. But the problem is the A's won't really spend money, so that's what kind of holds me back on them a little bit. But the A's really could use him. But man, I'm going to go with the A's on this, but they're going to have to dish it out a little bit, which is not like them. So I could very well be wrong for that reason right there.
Yep. He's a good player. Like I said, anybody that got him would be getting somebody, a good player, solid player.
What about D. Gordon? What are you hearing there?
So really, all those same teams, he makes sense for those teams as well. He's a valuable guy in that he can run and he can play multiple positions. So he'd be a great, super utility type guy. I've never been a huge D. Gordon fan, just to be honest with you. It's just not the style player that I like to watch. But I think he's still got something left in the tank. He's kind of been on some bad teams here recently. So, maybe you drop him in a more playoff type team. Maybe he steps it up a little bit.
So you'd mentioned the Pirates, and I think that the Pirates have got to have somebody, right? I mean, and he's not going to cost them much money. They got to have something to go with what they're doing. So maybe they sign him to a deal, and he runs around with Pittsburgh for a little bit there. So what about Jake Lamb? I like this one. What do you think of Jake Lamb?
You like Jake Lamb?
I'm not sure. I don't like his hitting. His average is really bad. Don't get me wrong. But when he was mashing, showed a lot of potential there for the Diamondbacks, man. So
I think he's looking at a minor league deal with somebody. I don't know how anybody could. He hasn't been good in 2 or 3 years, DJ. And I was looking at his stats today. And so I think he's going to be looking at a minor league deal somewhere. If I'm him, I try to go somewhere where I can play, not somewhere where I got to go to AAA and wait. So again, teams like the Pirates, the Tigers, teams like that, where Orioles, where I can go and play. But a lot of those teams aren't going to want to block prospects either with guys like Jake Lamb. So I think he's looking at minor league deals somewhere.
I'm going to go with the A's on this one too, David. And here's why. I think they could move him to the outfield, and I had read something about this too. He's obviously not playing third base for the A's with Chapman there. There's not that ain't happening. But he's 30 years old. His 20 and 17 years were really good. Then, like you said, he became really irrelevant here the last 3 years. But if he plays 162 games, his average season is 22 homers, 83 ribbies, and a 240 batting average. So the 83 ribbies is really good if he can stay on the field and contribute. But if he goes to the outfield, which they're talking he possibly could do, kind of opens up more opportunity for him to find a spot. So I'm going to stick with the A's on that one as well. Justin Turner, David.
Come on, man. It's going to be Dodgers, right? I think they're the same stare down with Turner that the Yankees were with LeMahieu. The rumor is Turner wants the 4th year. The Dodgers, I'm not giving that to him either. That takes him into age 40. That's not going to age well. So here's what I think you got to watch out for, DJ. I think if this Turner thing goes south, watch out for the Dodgers sneaking in on Eugenio Suarez. I would not surprise me one bit. I think the Reds are looking to get some prospects and make a deal. The Dodgers have a bunch of prospects. So if Turner doesn't sign with the Dodgers, and I think he will, watch out for that move. And, keep an eye again on the Blue Jays. There's been talks that they would put Turner at third. It's just, are you willing to give a 4th year? I wouldn't do that if it was me.
He's 37 years old and he wants 4 years. That's kind of where I have the problem. But he may have 2 or 3 more in the tank. But it's kind of like the DJ thing. You're paying for that end year there. You never know what you're going to get with that 4th year. If you're going to get 1 or 2 more good years out of him, that 4th year might be a little rough. But I still think, like you said, he's going back to the Dodgers. I still think they're going to get this done next couple weeks here. And he'll be right off the market. So what about Andrelton Simmons?
So he makes sense. And I think this is going to be the guy that's sort of going to be one of the losers of the shortstop sweepstakes. So, the Phillies, the Reds, the A's, the Blue Jays, if they were to move Bichette to third, Detroit, all those teams need shortstops. And like I said, if you think about the Oakland's MO, they're going to wait on this price to fall and maybe swoop in there. And Andrelton Simmons, man, he's a great shortstop, maybe one of the top fielding shortstops in the league. And so he makes a lot of sense for a ton of teams. And so he's not going to have any trouble finding work.
You mentioned the Reds. I'm going to stick with that one. That was a good call on your part. Maybe a stopgap until Jose Garcia is ready to step in there. So I think that's a possible spot for him to go to. Kyle Farmer is currently their shortstop, David. So, I mean, Kyle Farmer is a good player, but I don't necessarily think he's a shortstop. So that's a problem there. Reds are going to be bad in 2021, David. I really thought that they were going to be really good this year. They made the playoffs, no doubt, but they're not making a step forward. They're going backwards. And Andrelton Simmons would make a lot of sense for them. Just depends on what kind of mold they're in, if they're willing to spend money. And I don't think he costs them too much, but it would make a lot of sense to go to the Reds for sure.
Yep.
What are you hearing about Kevin Pillar?
So again, Billy would make a ton of sense. They need a center fielder. They could put him out there between Harper and McCutchen. The Rangers need a center fielder between Dahl and Gallo. Boston he had a great year in Boston last year, so put him back out there between Verdugo and Benintendi. So I think all those teams make a lot of sense. Like I said, Philly, I think watch out for Philly on this one.
The Cubs are actually in the rounds of Kevin Pillar too, and talking a little bit here about him, that he come on the cheap. They're not going to spend a lot of money, as we know. But I love his defense. If he were roaming center field at Wrigley, and I would love watching that every day. This is one of my kind of players. I really love these kind of players that are like Kevin Pillar. Just really fun to watch. Like you said, he had a great year for Boston. And if he can offensively produce like he did, this would be a steal for a team, no doubt. I really think he's still got some left in the tank. So,
yeah,
I'd love to see the Cubs get him. And this is the first time I picked the Cubs to get somebody, but I think that they need an outfielder or two. They really do. And it's got to be somebody, so why not Kevin Pillar? So I'm going to go with the Cubs.
Yeah.
Yasiel Puig, you kind of mentioned him a little earlier. What do you think about him?
So the Marlins could use him. They got Marte in center and Dickerson in left, so he'd make a lot of sense there. We talked about the Astros. We know the Orioles want him, but he doesn't want to seem to play for the Orioles. And then the Red Sox. Again, depending on what they're wanting to do, you know how I feel about the Hunter Renfroe signing. So I think he can make some sense for the Red Sox. What do you think?
So I've got the Astros, man, and I know we talked about them, how they need something. You mentioned this too when we talked about Pedro just signing there, and man, he would fit in pretty well with the Astros. I really believe this. I mean, they could use him out there for sure. Their outfield's atrocious, but the rest of their lineup is great. So you stick Puig in there, and man, all of a sudden you're contenders again. I'm not really sold too much on their pitching. I know we'll see. There's some definite question marks there, but there's a lot of potential, so they're kind of But that offense is still really loaded, and he had a guy like Puig. I think that'd be a really smart move for them. This team's pretty much a veteran team now, so it's not like he'd come in there and be a cancer to a young clubhouse or anything like that. So he just kind of would come in and kind of fit in a little bit better, I think, with a team like this instead of a young team where he could probably blow up with his attitude, so to speak. But we'll see what happens with him. What's that?
Yeah, the Astros are interesting.
Yeah.
Very winnable. Framber Valdez looked like a stud last year. They still got Greinke, McCullers. They've been working on that bullpen a little bit. I think they still need another guy or two out there. Then you got the star power with Correa and Altuve. I think Puig makes a ton of sense because I still think they could be relevant in that division.
What about Jake Arrieta, our last guy? What are you hearing about him?
Haven't heard much on the Arrieta front. Matter of fact, one of the teams I heard him connected to early on was the Cubs, because he would come on the cheap, kind of be a reunion. That was kind of the last thing that I heard. Somebody's going to take a chance on him and and get him for low money. But I haven't heard much on Arrieta.
You think his starting days are over, David?
No. I mean, I'm not going to say he's, going to be a stud, but he's going to be somebody's fifth starter, I would think. What do you think?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea for a fifth starter. He's still a Bulldog. Man, I just went over his numbers today just to kind of see. I still am it's a blur of what just happened through this great years of the Cubs, but he was 68 and 31 with the Cubs with a 2.73 ERA in his time here in 5 seasons. He's 110 and 79 in his career with a 3.76 ERA. I don't know. I'm honestly not really sure where to stick him here. I put him with the Rangers. Maybe as a fifth starter there, I kind of threw him there. That'd be a move they can make. But I'm kind of intrigued at just because, I love Arrieta, obviously. So I'm kind of intrigued as to where he's going to go. So that's going to be another interesting one to see where all these guys go. Man, David, as we wrap up the free agent update this week, so there's a lot of guys still out there, man. And I know it's still January, and this kind of is a time now where people are starting to roll, and we'll see more and more signing this week and in the weeks to come. Normally, like up until like Valentine's Day, when you kind of hit, okay, we're spring training time here. So there's still about a month, maybe a little under a month left for these guys to sign before teams get into the camp. But there's still a lot out there, man, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting, DJ. We're only a month away.
1 month away. I can't wait, man. So here we go, David. We got 8 or 9 guys here to talk about with the Hall of Fame. I'm going to kick us into gear right away here with Curt Schilling, David. I want to hear your yes or no on Curt Schilling and what you believe, whether or not you believe he's a Hall of Famer.
100%. Over 3,000 strikeouts. You're in. You got to be in. Great postseason pitcher, 11-2, 223 in the postseason. 9 seasons he was in the top 10 in ERA. And you look at his ERA career-wise, not that impressive at 3.46. And DJ, this is what I want to talk to you about. I told you I was going to save this for later, but let's just talk about it right now. So the pitchers we're getting ready to talk about played in the steroid era, hitters era. Don't you think some of these guys should get credit for being good in that era? Because let's be honest, if we're comparing eras, if these guys would have pitched in the 80s, if Curt Schilling would have pitched in the 80s, he might win 300 games. And I think when we look at these pitchers, we need to look at them in a different lens. I was looking at some of these Hall of Famers, some of these guys that have made it. Well, they played in dead ball eras. And so, they made it because they were, some of the best at their position during that era. Well, Schilling was unquestionably one of the top pitchers of his era. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has to be in the Hall of Fame, DJ. What do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. He made my ballot. I will vote yes on Curt Schilling. You make a great point about that, David. And one of the things, I'm not going to lie to you about it, I have a little bit of a hard time. I have a harder time putting pitchers and trying to figure out whether or not a pitcher should be in there than I do the hitters. To me, it's a lot harder to figure out if a pitcher's a Hall of Famer than it is a batter. I just struggle with that one a little bit more. So you may make some sense there. I mean, these guys were facing some of the greatest hitting going on in the history of the game right now through this era. So to come out of that with good numbers is very, very impressive. And Schilling, man, I don't know why he's not already in. This blows my mind. I mean, I'm not a big WAR guy. I don't really understand the stat, but he's at an 80 WAR. That's ridiculous. I mean, come on. 3-time World Series champion, and he had huge parts in those 3 World Series titles. He's a 5-time All-Star. So if you're one of those people that is keeping him off because of his politics, then you should get your ballot removed instantly, man, because that has zero to do with Hall of Fame. I don't care what you think about what he thinks about the way people should live their lives. That's none of your business. That has nothing to do with his baseball career. If he offends you by what he says, everybody offends somebody with what they say, man. It's like, come on, you can't do this. That's ridiculous. And I know there are some guys, David, that's why I bring this up, because there are some guys that are holding back on him because of what he says. And shame on them, man. That is so wrong. We got guys that are in the Hall of Fame that were murderers, We got guys in the Hall of Fame that were steroid users. Just for somebody wanting their politics, not believing in their politics, absolutely ridiculous. And if he stays off the ballot this year, David, he doesn't make it, I 100% feel like that's the reason why he didn't make it. Because you cannot argue these stats. His postseason numbers dominate. You have to take that in consideration. Of the guys on the 3,000K list, all of them are Hall of Famers. That's a magic number for pitchers. The only one that's not is Clemens, and that's because of roids. Sabathia is on that list, and Verlander on the list as well, but they're not eligible yet. But everybody else is a 3,000K guy is in there, and he's up there. I think he's 15th all time, David. 15th all time in Ks. He's a postseason hero, 3-time World Series champion, 216 and 146. This is no brainer to me. I have no idea why he's not there. To be honest with you, I think he may be the only guy to get in this year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. Again, I disagree with it, but that makes sense. We talked to I'm thinking Clemens is going to have a decent shot of getting in. He was pretty close last year. He was relatively close. He might be the first known steroid guy to fall, but you might be right. It may be Schilling or bust.
We'll see, but man, I really think that this is the guy that, of all the guys on the ballot, he needs to be the first one to go because he's almost off of it. So he needs to get in there right now. Like, this has got to be his year. I'm really, really rooting for him to get in. I really hope that he makes it because this guy's got to be there. That'd be a scam for him not to make it. So this one's intriguing, David. Give me your Omar Vizquel feeling. Yes or no on Omar? Okay, why not? Why not?
Let's just sum this up. I don't think Ozzie Smith was a Hall of Famer. Therefore, I don't think Omar Vizquel was a Hall of Famer. It's literally that simple for me. If you had to list the top 5 shortstops of the 90s or 2000s, does Omar Vizquel make any of those lists? So I'm sorry. I know he accumulated 2,877 hits, but the thing that's tough on this, DJ, is the similarity score. I thought this was going to totally prove my point, but Luis Aparicio is in the Hall of Fame. Ozzie Smith is in the Hall of Fame. Pee Wee Reese is in the Hall of Fame. Nellie Fox is in the Hall of Fame. Luke Appling's in the Hall of Fame. And Rabbit Moranville, whoever that is in the Hall of Fame. That's what makes this tough. And again, these guys played in a different era. That's why they're in. Nellie Fox, I looked at his stats. I don't know anything about Nellie Fox, but his stats say no way is he in the Hall of Fame. No way. But for me, sorry, it just doesn't work.
So, David, I had to ask you this because I didn't think you were going to vote for him. But here's my question to you. Now, towards the end of his career, he played till he was 45. So he wasn't getting 100 hits. He wasn't even coming close to that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that he kind of catches a spark in his last season. He plays one more year, and he gets 123 hits. Okay, let's just say he had a good year, not great. And he gets the magic number. I mean, you put him in with 3,000 hits, would that make the difference for you?
Yep.
Okay, I get that. Here's my problem. And people are saying, well, he's so close to that magic number, you got to let him in. Here's my problem with that, David. This is my argument against Vizquel, okay? A 45 WAR, which, whatever, take that for what it's worth. He's only a 3-time All-Star in his 24 years he played in the he won 11 Gold Gloves, so defensively he was really good. He hit over 300 one time, David. He batted over 300 one time. He had over 10 home runs one time. He had over 70 ribbies one time. He played till he was 45 years old, which is awesome longevity. That's great. However, 10 of his 24 seasons, David, he didn't even get 100 hits in a season. 10 of the 24, he did not get 100 hits. There's a lot of bad there. There really is. And he accumulated a lot of hits over the years. When you play from the time you're 21 until you're 45, you're going to do that. But to me, man, he just doesn't make it. I'm not a fan of that spread out stats that are very, very dry. Not very good offensive numbers at all. very good defensively, but I can't do it, man. And a lot of people are doing it, and he's trending towards possibly getting in. He really is.
I really believe if he hadn't had that sexual assault thing come up this year, I think he was going to get in. Unfortunately,
Yes.
and like I said, I'm not for that at all because nobody. Again, just use the argument. If you were to write down 5 shortstops of the 90s or 2000s, the two eras he played in, does he make either list? No way.
I don't put him there. I really don't. If you were talking maybe defensive shortstops of that era, I probably would put him on there. I'm just being honest. But all around, complete package, no, I'm not doing that. So we see eye to eye in the first two, David. This is going well so far. So now we're gonna swing and miss, and I know we're going different directions here. Manny Ramirez, give me your case for Manny Ramirez.
Tell me the story of baseball in his era without Manny Ramirez. And if you can do that without saying his name, I won't put him in.
I can't. I'm honest with you.
So 9 top MVP finishes, 69.3 WAR, 555 home runs, one of the most feared, if not the most feared RBI guy of his era, 32nd in career batting WAR, 21st in career runs created, 25th in career OPS, 15th in career home runs, 34th in career doubles, 30th in career total bases, 8th in slugging percentage. All 10 of his similarity scores are in the Hall of Fame. Rest of my case. Mic drop. And I hate Manny Ramirez, just for the record.
I got nothing to add to that. You said all the stats. You know where I'm going. I'm just saying roids. David, this hurts me. I don't want you guys to kind of like think that, I'm just blah, 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 blah. This is I really, 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 really wish we could put these players in because, like you said, they are the greatest players to ever play this game. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. Like, I agree with that 100%. And Manny Ramirez should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt based off his stats. He's one of the most feared right-handed hitters of all time. Let's just be honest. Like, he's one of the best right-handed hitters ever. You got to put him up there with like Miguel Cabrera and guys like that, man. Just pure awesome hitters. And it does sadden me, man. It really does. Like, I think he's a terrible teammate. I think he plays the game awful. Like, he doesn't hustle. He drives me bonkers. He's one of those guys that does it his way. It's the Manny way or the highway kind of thing. And I hate players like that. I really do. But the numbers don't lie. If you're voting for Royd guys, you have to put them in. So I 100% agree with you on that. So,
yeah.
David, Bobby Abreu.
This is so interesting, DJ. This is so interesting. So the answer is no. But there's going to be a lot of yeses. Bobby Abreu is going to be on the ballot for a while. 60.2 WAR, which is 122nd all time. You're the 122nd best player ever. Bobby Abreu was good at everything and great at nothing. So career 291 hitter, 288 homers, 1,453 runs, but 0 top 10 MVP finishes. 82nd in career runs. This is crazy. 25th in career doubles.
Wow.
Top 100 in total bases, top 100 in RBI, 52nd in runs created, 0 on the Hall of Fame similarity scores. I can't put him in, but it's interesting. What do you think, DJ?
This, of all the players that we're talking about here, there were 2 that I really struggled with, and he's one of them. I'm having a hard time with this one, David. I really am because I'm going to tell you right now, I voted no, okay? He's not on there this year for me. However, if he does not make if he's not on there for 10 years so we can get more and more of a look at him, it'd be a scam. I hope he sticks around the whole time on the ballot and doesn't get kicked off because David, he's got the magic number, the magic thing that I love in the 10 years of dominance. He's got that. When I looked at his stats, he's got it, David. Dominance. 8 seasons over 100 ribbies, David. He batted over 300 of those seasons too, man. Those are Hall of Fame seasons.
Top 10 MVP finishes. 0, not 1. That's not dominance, DJ. That's being a really good player. And congratulations, Bobby Abreu. I loved when he was with the Yankees. He was the toughest at bat. When you needed an 8th inning long at bat, this Bobby Abreu was your guy. but no way. What kid wants to walk through the Hall of Fame and not see Manny Ramirez, but see Bobby Abreu? No way. No way. And I know this is where this is going, and this is why I hate this so bad. I hate it because Bobby Abreu was a very nice player. But if you listed superstars of the era, no way. No way.
David, the numbers are saying he's a top 100 player of all time.
I like Bobby Abreu.
I want the top 100 players in the Hall of Fame, right? Would you not want the top 100 players?
He was not dominant, and he was not great at anything. He was just a very solid player. Very solid.
I do agree. I do agree. I thought that way about him. I really did. But when you look at this,
for 8 years, DJ, that's what he was. He was a very solid player.
Man, this one of all, I spent a lot of time looking at his Bobby Abreu's numbers, and I read the arguments for his Hall of Fame case. I'm not there yet, but
I'll burn down the Hall of Fame if he gets in. I'm gonna burn it down. So ridiculous. Barry Bonds and Manny Ramirez aren't in the Hall of Fame, each with over 500 homers, but you're going to let a guy who hit 291 with 288 homers. I mean, did he even have 2,500 hits? I don't even have that in front of me.
He had 2,470.
No way. And I like Bobby Abreu. I'm not banging on Bobby Abreu. No way.
Very intriguing. And the next guy that I had a hard time with, David.
This was tough.
Tim Hudson.
So, DJ, again. So you just made mention a minute ago that John Lester was a Hall of Famer. Did you say that?
I think he's trending towards that. I really do.
Then you cannot keep Tim Hudson out. You can't do it. I didn't put him in, but Tim Hudson's ERA is better. He probably has more Ks than Lester. I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. Top four or 4 times in the top 6 in Cy Young. He won 222 games, which is more than Lester. 77th all-time in career WAR of pitchers. But his similarity scores kind of betray him a little bit. They'll end up being 3 Hall of Famers on there, which is Verlander, Greinke, and Catfish Hunter. And you could definitely make a case for Doc Gooden, but he didn't make it. So this brings the question. This is the steroid era. Was he one of the top pitchers of the steroid era? And the answer is yes, he was. But I don't put him in yet. I can only vote for 10, and he just didn't make
it. Okay, so I had a hard time with this one. I really did. And I might eventually come around on Tim Hudson. I'm not going to lie to you. I
will vote for Tim Hudson. Eventually. Not this year.
It's hard not to, David. A 3.49 ERA, 222 and 133, a 62% win percentage, over 2,000 Ks. His postseason numbers don't help him at all. He's 1-4. No. But David, here's my problem. We talked about this one before. Dwight Gooden was 194 and 112 with a 3.51 ERA and a 53 WAR. So very similar. He's one of the similarity scores with Tim Hudson. And Dwight Gooden's not a Hall of Famer, which I'm not sure about that one either. I have a hard time. This is what I'm saying, David. Like guys like Dwight Gooden and Tim Hudson, when I'm thinking Hall of Fame, man, these guys I struggle with. I really do. Because like we talked about, 300 wins, man. No. That's not the thing anymore. That's got to stop. Like we got to go down on that for sure. So
the fact that he pitched in the steroid era and not good and pitched in the 80s is the separation line for me. And Tim Hudson was better than Doc Gooden. Tim Hudson should be a Hall of Famer. Like I said, I could only vote for 10. He wasn't one of the 10 this year. Tim Hudson should be a Hall of Famer.
That's another one with Abreu I'm going to keep on the ballot and maybe possibly vote for next year. I'm going to go no this year for sure. But that was a tough one, no doubt. So what about Mark Burley, David?
I love me some Mark Burley. I didn't put him in, but Mark Burley is amazing to me, DJ. So he honestly retired a little early. He definitely had left. He had his average year, his last year, which was 16 wins and a 3.80 ERA for, I believe, the Blue Jays. He only played 15 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. He won 214 games. In 15 seasons, 14 of those he pitched 200 innings or better. And number 15, with his last one with the Blue Jays, 198 and a third. Mark Burley is a super underrated player. And you got to admit, DJ, I mean, every year was the same. 16 wins. He averaged 16 wins a year, 3.80 ERA. I'm not going to put him in because he didn't strike out a lot of guys, but 65th all-time in WAR for pitchers, DJ, which is better than Tim Hudson. I'm just going to throw that out there. Again, if you're putting John Lester in, Mark Burley can't be far behind.
Yeah, I don't know. I have 214 and 160 doesn't really do it for me. That's not too much of a separation on the win percentage. 381 ERA is a little up there too. 1800 Ks, just not quite there. Not really much of a case, to be honest with you. I've been begging one of my coworkers, Mark Delisle, and he used to be the coach at Westmont, where I'm coaching at now. Before I got there, and he goes and hangs out with Mark Burley. He camps with him once a year down in Missouri.
Wow.
And I'm telling him, I'm like, come on, man, you got to get me in on this trip so I can go hang out with Mark Burley. So if I go camping this year with Mark Burley, David, I'll probably put him in the Hall of Fame next year.
I love Mark Burley. I think Mark Burley is a super underrated player. He got no press because he didn't strike out a lot of guys. But, man, what a grinder. Is there a better, like, number 2 or 3 starter of that era than Mark Burley? I mean, he was the White Sox number 1. But I don't think he got enough credit. You know, again, I just pulled up John Lester here again. You're calling him a Hall of Famer. He's played one less year than Burley. And Burley is going to – right now he's got 21 more wins than Lester does. 21 more wins. That's not insignificant. That's not an insignificant number. And like I said, man, he might have got 250 wins. He retired with some gas left in the tank. So I'm a big Mark Burley fan, but I'm with you. He just didn't do enough to be in the Hall.
One of the things, David, about Mark Burley, and you were kind of this as a pitcher as well, like Burley would get the ball and go. And the defense loves that, man. And I love that about you two pitching, because you just get the ball and go. Like, you didn't sit there and stand there and 20 seconds later you're throwing a pitch. That drives the outfielders especially nuts, the defense. But Burley was like that, man. He would pitch you an hour 56 and game over. You know, he was that kind of pitcher where he'd get on the mound and go, like he's getting the sign, and the ball's already on the way when the signs are going down. Man, he's just that kind of pitcher, and I love that about him for sure. He's a former White Sox, so I can't vote for him. Nick Swisher, David.
Nope.
Former Yankee. Come on, buddy.
In West Virginia, and it's so funny. I have a rental house, and the lady that rents it is Nick Swisher's cousin. So I walk in there one day, and I'm doing a repair or something for her, and I walk by, and it was like, that's a picture of Nick Swisher. So I was like, what's the deal with that? And she goes, oh, it's my cousin. I was like, no way. But, yeah, I like Nick Swisher. A lot of good moments with Nick Swisher. He was also maddening. He never hit for average, but would hit a few bombs. So, sorry.
You don't like that 249 career batting average?
You know, I've always hated that. I like guys that hit for average.
Oh, man. 245 homers, 803 ribbies, 1,300 hits. He did have a good career. He was a good guy. Like, you would love to be a teammate with a guy like Nick Swisher, no doubt. A's, Sox, Yankees, and Indians, but it's really cool he's on the ballot. Let's just ask you this question. You think he gets the 5% and stays on the ballot, or do you think he falls off?
No, he shouldn't.
He's going off. This is the only time we're going to talk about Nick Swisher, right?
Yep. Super guy, though. He's in the Yankees front office now, which I think is cool.
Oh, cool. I did not know that. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. 2 more left. Barry Zito.
Barry Zito was on Hall of Fame track, DJ, and I don't know what derailed him. He was awesome with the A's and terrible with the Giants. 165 and 143. He won a Cy Young when he was a part of Mulder, Zito, and Hudson. What an awesome pitching staff there at one point. 7 good seasons with Oakland. 6-3, a great postseason pitcher, 283, but his track record's just not long enough. Ended up with a 4.04 career ERA. At one point, you would have thought 7 years into his career he was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Hudson, Zito, Mulder. Pray for rain, right? That's
Yep.
how the A's were. Those three guys, and then pray for rain.
Yep.
What a dominant force. We all love that rotation. They were like a force to be reckoned with. World Series contenders every year, but they always ran into the Yankees and game over. So, man, that was a great staff they had, though. How did they put that together with that budget that they got is just more credit to the A's organization for what they can do. And it's cool to see these guys come through. But, man, yeah, Zito was on a pace, and then he just, second half of his career, fell apart. He's not close to me, but he had a really good career. There's no doubt about it. I would put him in the really good Hall of Fame if they had that wing, but
They need to so Bobby Abreu and Torrey Hunter can make it.
Well, you segued to Torrey Hunter, David. Come on, give Torrey Hunter some love.
I love Torrey Hunter. He was like one of my favorite players, coming up with the Twins and then later with the Angels. Yep. 50.7 WAR, 277 batting average, 353 homers, 1391 RBIs, which are both more than Bobby Abreu. I'm going to throw that out there. 9 Gold Gloves, way more than Bobby Abreu. 66 in doubles all time, but 0 in the top 10 Hall of Fame similarity scores. Guys like Dwight Evans, Dave Parker, great players, just a little bit short.
Yeah, 8 dominant years for me, not enough. Just missed, doggone it, because I love Torrey Hunter. I think if he would have got to 400 homers and maybe 1,500 ribbies and had 2 more dominant seasons, I would have probably put him in because of his defense too. When you got 400 homers and played defense the way he did, with a pretty solid batting average he had there too, and an on base of 331, he is close. I'm going to give you that. I'm not going to put him in either, but he's very close to me. Like, he's on that borderline of one of those guys that is right there wanting to jump over, but I just can't do it, man. As much as I love Torrey Hunter, I really do. He's probably one of my top 50 players of all time, to be honest with you, but can't do it.
If you're putting Torrey Hunter in, you've got to put Andrew Jones in, and I know you're not doing that. I mean, you've got to. I can't wait to talk about that because this is where the oxymorons of the Hall of Fame come up. Torrey Hunter and Bobby Abreu might be in, but Andrew Jones, who has like 450 homers, can't get in.
Andrew Jones is on our list for next week, and we've got some very intriguing guys left, man.
We're going to fight that one out because I don't think he's in either. But if you're putting Abreu and these guys in, and again, what bothers me about Abreu, Fred McGriff doesn't make it in. He has like 500 home runs, like double the home runs Abreu's got. Del Murphy doesn't make it in. He's got more home runs, and I know home runs isn't it, but Del Murphy was a lot bigger star in his time than Bobby Abreu ever dreamed of being. And so how do you not put those guys in and let Bobby Abreu in?
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about both those guys. They're in my book for sure. And so, I don't know, man. Bobby Abreu for years to come is going to make me look at him, and we'll see where he goes in the future with him and Hudson.
New team.
I'm telling you, man, I was this close on Hudson. I just can't do it yet. I got to look more into in the offseason here. I got to look more into him and just kind of think about that era like you were talking about. Let's talk about the eras these guys are in and see what the best pitchers were to come out of that era. And he's got to be there, man. I really believe that.
He's in.
I
totally agree. He would be in for me. I just only had 10 votes.
All right, David. So that was a lot of fun, man. We have another good show lined up for next Monday night. We have Josh Hill, former Temple teammate of ours, coming on. He's doing this thing. We're going to get into his career. We're going to talk about the rest of the guys remaining on the ballot. We'll have some updates of trades, free agency, all that kind of stuff coming up here. Hopefully no GMs lose their jobs this week. Send lewd pictures to women 4 years ago and get fired for it. So,
oh my goodness.
But David, it's been fun, man, and we're looking forward to next week's show with Josh, no doubt. And we'll finish off the Hall of Fame discussion. And the following week, we'll be reacting to what has happened, and we'll have Micah Miller, one of our former teammates, on as well. So we got a couple shows with a couple of former teammates coming up here. We won't have to just look at our mugs for the next 2 weeks. So we'll get those guys in here and talk with them, catch up with those guys a little bit. It'll be a lot of fun. And thanks to all you fans out there who listen to us. We appreciate it, and have a good night.
Have a good night.